It's great to be back. I worked in Philadelphia almost 20 years ago, and this isn't the city I remember.
Philadelphia, America's birthplace, now celebrating another kind of revolution.
The dining scene in Philly is next to New York.
A restaurant renaissance attracting top chefs.
Philadelphia pulled me back home.
Many battling the odds to find success.
I'm from a tough neighborhood. Most of my friends didn't make it out.
Join us for a food-filled Philadelphia road trip. Next on Restaurant Hunter.
All right, Chef, what do we have here?
Japanese crab cake with Alaskan king crab and then bonito on top of it.
Wow.
It just kind of like dances in there.
It's superb. I
Thank
love
you.
this.
This isn't just any Japanese restaurant. This is Morimoto PA. When Iron Chef Masaharu Morimoto partnered with legendary Philadelphia-based restaurateur Steven Starr to open this restaurant here in the Old City part of town in 2001, it was a really big deal. I know, I was a news reporter here in Philly at the time. Morimoto PA was a huge step forward in Philadelphia's restaurant renaissance. Today, Starr owns 20 restaurants and bars here in Philly, has Empire's tentacles reaching out to New York, D.C., and even Paris. And though some things have changed here at the original Morimoto, others have stayed the same, as I learned from Chef Chris Polikas.
This is the tuna pizza Morimoto. It's a classic dish here. It's been on since day one.
There's a great contrast between the crunchy tortilla and the freshness of the tuna.
Exactly.
And the anchovy aioli sauce. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's just like savory, right?
Yeah.
It just brings the whole dish together. For people who don't know, Steven Starr is like a real big deal, right?
Steven Starr is the man in Philly. He has kind of revolutionized the food scene here in Philadelphia. He's had some restaurants here for almost 20 plus years now. Budokan just celebrated his 20th year. He has everything from like Japanese to French bistros, beer gardens, and continental, which is a nice blend of all different types of cuisines and foods.
Back in the late 90s, why did he see like Philadelphia as this open, wide space for all of these restaurants to eventually come to?
I think that what Steven kind of looked at was he saw the void. There was no place to really eat. There was a few small places set up, but I feel like what he wanted was for Philadelphia to kind of be on the same level as New York and LA. And I think for him, it was just he saw an opportunity in a space that didn't have something, and he came in and really just pioneered the food scene for Philadelphia. And I fully believe he's majorly responsible for a lot of the things that we're seeing in this city now, as well as his branching out across the U.S. and everything, but it's really like started all here in Philly for him.
If Steven Starr helped put Philadelphia's dining scene on the map, then James Beard 2019 Outstanding Restaurant winner Zahab has taken the city's food scene to the next level. Four-time James Beard award-winning chef Michael Solomonov opened this Israeli restaurant with partner Steve Cook on St. James Place back in 2008. Their Philadelphia footprint has since grown to include Sansom Street favorites Federal Donuts, Dizengoff, and Abe Fisher.
So the concept here at Abe Fisher is we are taking sort of a combination of old world Jewish cuisine from Eastern Europe, and we're melding it with sort of this new Jewish cuisine that sort of emerged in America, with influences from everything from TV dinners, to Chinatown and, Jewish spins on deli, like all of that, and using, a lot of like awesome local ingredients and, just doing what chefs do technique-wise.
Abe Fisher partner and executive chef Yehuda Seychel has worked with Solomonov for almost a decade. The great-grandson of a Philadelphia butcher, the food here at Abe Fisher is personal to Yehuda.
My grandparents on my mom's side survived the Holocaust. They were in Europe the entire time. They actually got married in a DP camp in 1945. Some of the food that I grew up eating that I make at Abe Fisher would be things like potato latkes. There's also the side of it, things that I didn't eat growing up that now we make kind of taste and look a little more sexy and a little more appealing, like the chopped liver, for instance. So the way that we present it and the way that we prepare it, by making a mousse, you know, and just serving it with like the pickles and the pastrami jam and all of those things, I think that's like what really gets people going. So, you know, really when the juice started to migrate to the U.S., you know, from the early 1900s till after the war, you know, they kind of, I would say, you know, the majority of them came to New York. Some of them ended up in Canada, you know, and they started Montreal cuisine. So there is this competitiveness between the two. So we serve the Montreal style short ribs back on, we clean it all up and then we put it back onto the bone, serve it, you know, very primal Flintstone style. You know, it's really kind of like a showstopper when we drop it at the table.
You also explore the Jewish love of Chinese food, right?
Exactly. So we, you know, the relationship between Chinese food and Jews in America, you know, has a long history.
And some of the ingredients were very similar, right?
Exactly. So they're using a lot of like sweet and sour type sauces. We grew up every Sunday. We would go to the Chinese restaurant. In addition to that, you know, as a chef, you know, you kind of eat like that late night food. Philly has an amazing Chinatown scene, and I go there all the time with my friends.
Yehuda pays attention to every detail when preparing the Hungarian duck Chinatown style at Abe Fisher.
So we get these incredible Jergowitz Peking ducks, and we break it down into all these different parts. We take the neck, and we peel it, and we stuff it with kishka. Kishka is a Hungarian-style bread sausage, I would call it. We take the legs, and we confit them, and then we take the breasts, and we slow roast them, and then caramelize it in a pan. The fried rice we cook with duck schmaltz. You know, we use every part of this duck. We even render the duck fat. And then we make sauerkraut. We add some chilies to it and make like a spicy sauerkraut. But we make pretzel steam buns. And then we serve it with 3 sauces.
Kishka adds a little bit more savoriness to this dish. The duck is rich. The hoisin sauce that you have has the lefgar, which has that plummy note to it, right? It's like a real Eastern European taste to it.
Yeah.
And put all together on this like steamed bun, it's incredible.
Thank you.
Well, the fact that, you know, you kept kosher, right? Your whole family. How did that affect you when you were cooking, you know, as a chef? Like, how do you get creative? You have some restrictions placed upon you.
And, you know, there definitely were some challenges, you know, because I really wasn't tasting any of my food for the first few years.
How do you present a food when you can't taste it?
You know, I would have other people taste it, or I didn't even tell my chefs in the beginning.
Was it difficult to not tell them?
I mean, I already, you know, I was in like some pretty cutthroat kitchens.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it to affect, you know, the way they perceived me, you know. I was already kind of struggling with like everything else, you know, just like being in these high-end kitchens, that like I didn't need them to think that I also was handicapped by not tasting the food, you know. We've been through a lot together.
Where he is today, it's incredible, right? His success sort of just parallels the resiliency of the Jewish people, doesn't it?
When he first opened Zahav, he was struggling a lot with his addiction.
Wow.
That he had to get some serious help very quickly.
It's the Philadelphia story, isn't it?
It's the Philly story. It's like really, you know, it's like the American story. You know, it's people coming in search of a better life and working hard for it. And, you know, whether you're the son of an immigrant or the grandson, everyone has a story.
Jennifer Carroll, accomplished chef and Philadelphia native. Like many chefs, she left the city of brotherly love to find success.
I moved to San Francisco I moved to New York City. I worked at Le Bernardin with Eric Repair, and then I worked with Marcus Samuelsson.
But the former Top Chef contestant is back home, cooking with her chef fiance Billy Riddell at their Mediterranean-inspired restaurant Spice Finch in Philadelphia's Rittenhouse Square. It's a homecoming for Billy as well.
In Philadelphia, I interned at La Croix. From there, I learned everything pretty much from prep to becoming a sous chef, and then moved to work with other chefs like Jose Garces, Todd Wentz.
I think so many chefs are coming back to Philadelphia because first, it's an amazing food community, and we keep getting acknowledgments from all over the world, and we have so many different ethnicities and a lot of cultures here that we really celebrate. I fell head over heels for him from the moment we met. Love at first sight.
She's beautiful, she's amazing. I think we have the same core values as people too.
We wanted to do something that's not stressful together.
I said no at first because I don't want to jeopardize our relationship. It's more work than the restaurant or any business in the world. I have to make sure she's happy. She has to make sure I'm happy.
Our food isn't traditional at all because neither of us grew up over in the Mediterranean or have our backgrounds there. And we haven't traveled over there, so it's really just us researching and reading and going to other restaurants and being inspired by others and being really inspired by the flavors and taking traditional dishes and really making them our own. And we started making the food because of both of our moms are sick, and we were trying to bring the food as medicine part to our families and to ourselves as well. And when we got the opportunity to open up here in Philadelphia, we wanted to share what we were making with the community.
The Berber carrots are a prime example of something of a healthier option. They're tossed in spice, which gives you flavor. You don't have to rely on fat for the flavor. You don't have to rely on heavily salted items.
My original cooking with sauces and the lamb shank, for example, I would have done before with a ton of butter. But I took all of the butter out of that completely, and we're using olive oil, and I'm using dates to give that texture and the sweetness and that mouthfeel that you're looking for.
So your stuffed grape leaves are on the healthier side as well, right?
Yes.
So you're using farro, which is high in protein, low in gluten, instead of the traditional white rice.
Typically, the white rice and the grape leaves, a lot of people grew up eating, or what they're used to, become really mushy.
Yeah. The other thing I really like about this dish is that you put apricots in there instead of the traditionally they'll put raisins in there. I'm Persian American, right? So this is what I grew up doing, rolling grape leaves.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with your techniques.
Billy actually taught me how to make these. Billy worked in a Greek restaurant that had a lot of Greek moms and grandmoms in there working and doing all of this very delicate handwork. And they taught Billy, when we line it up in the pot, we want to line it up super tight, like little soldiers. We cook it in a tomato water and lemon juice, so it gives you that acid in the pot.
Billy also makes something that's kind of like a different variation of a traditional dish, which is the tabbouleh.
Yes.
It's a Middle Eastern salad. Normally, traditionally, it's made with bulgur and lots of, parsley in there.
Yep. It's made with a lot more broccoli, and it is super healthy, and it's so delicious, and I eat it all the time.
With the broccoli tabbouleh, we're starting with quinoa, broccoli crowns and stems, red onions, tabbouleh spice, adding olive oil, lemon juice, and salt. Plating that, and then we're topping it off with tahini, herbs, tomatoes, and tremula.
What really touches my heart or speaks to my heart is because I grew up eating sour things is the lemon.
Yeah.
But then you combine it and then you sort of mix it up with the tahini on the bottom. Tahini alone is sort of like a bittersweet taste, right? It needs something to just sort of bring it out, right?
Right, yeah, to enliven it.
This is what I grew up eating, right? And
Yeah, so pressure's on right now.
the apricots add a balance to it with the hint of sweetness. The farro is meaty. It's got a nice bite to it. I think it really works well.
Thank you.
I think it's fabulous that this kind of food, Middle Eastern food's becoming part of the mainstream food, and I kind of feel included in America's food landscape.
We feel so lucky that we get to learn about this food together as a couple and then share it with Philadelphia.
There was a time when chefs this was like the stop before New York City, but now it's like where it's
I know
where
where you're saying
you're
going.
coming back to. This is where
Right.
chefs are coming to stay.
You're so right about people originally like starting in Philadelphia and like getting their feet wet before they moved up and moved further into the industry and leaving Philly in the dust behind, but that's not the case anymore. Coming back here, the food scene and the chef community is so collaborative and so willing to share and so excited about new foods and new cultures. It's one of the best times to be in Philadelphia.
South Kitchen and Jazz Club is one of 4 restaurants owned by Benjamin Bynum and his brother Robert. The Philly natives never left to find success because they saw the city of brotherly love's potential when others did not. They've invited me into their kitchen to make shrimp and grits with executive chef Gregory Hedden.
The legendary Chef Lord.
We add our water, our milk. Now because it's a stone ground grit, it takes more liquid and cooks longer. More milk.
Yeah, you need butter for grits.
Definitely. You need that fat content. You're gonna add your salt.
I hear the music in the background, chef. Is this what you get to listen to every time you
That's the
cook?
best part.
I
You keep
know.
me motivated. So you whisk in your butter.
All right.
What you want to do is you bring your butter and your liquids all to a simmer. That butter has to melt.
Yeah.
If you don't, you won't get that nice texture throughout the entire dish.
You grew up in Philadelphia, in West Philadelphia, right?
Definitely, West Philadelphia, Mill Creek area. Yeah, I did, actually. Born and raised.
What was that like for you in West Philly?
Oh, growing up in West Philly, it was rough growing up. You know, I'm from a tough neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, you know, most of my friends didn't make it out, you know. So I was fortunate to make it out, go to school, and change my life around, in all reality.
Stirring that is crucial and very fast, right?
Very crucial. You gotta understand, you're on some intense heat here, and you're cooking with milk. Milk fat burns very fast.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't stir it, you scorch your whole product. You start from scratch again.
So that looks ready for the grits, right?
You're gonna pour it in, and you have to whisk. If you don't whisk, you're gonna get a bowl, or a pot rather, of just stuffed grits, one grit bowl. My family's from the South, North Carolina,
Yep.
so we grew up on stuff like this. I have a French background, but I grew up with this kind of food.
Yeah.
So of course it's to my heart, and you learn these great techniques, you make it that much better. So you're pretty much elevating the food you grew up on.
Do you have memories of making this with your mom or grandma?
Definitely. My grandma would get up in the morning, make grits, shrimp and grits actually, and watch the Frugal Gourmet, PBS. So
Yeah.
some of y'all too young for that, but I grew up with a Frugal Gourmet. You want to try?
Sure.
Definitely. Just
Yeah,
whisk
you know,
it.
you can't be
Circular
doing all
motion.
this. Okay, circular motion. There you go. I'm getting tired. Are you serious?
That's gonna be a good grit though.
Oh, yeah, I know, because I'm mixing it or not. It could not turn out to be so good. So you
That's
see
what-
it thickening up as I'm doing this, right?
But again, it's a stone ground grit, so it takes some time to absorb that liquid and make it more creamier.
So I'm gonna let you finish that up. Are you still stirring?
Oh yeah, it's almost done. Now you're gonna add some Parmesan cheese
Okay.
and some aged white cheddar. We're gonna do this off the heat.
So those two ingredients or whatever, they're married now. We can set it aside.
45-minute engagement.
45 minutes, that's all it took. All right, next, shrimp.
And some oil. Not a lot, a little.
Blended oil, I assume?
Blended. And you want to see it spider as your aromatics.
Okay.
This case is just, you know, a little bit of garlic and
Shallot.
shallot. Always salt.
Yes.
As your shrimp.
Nice. Woo, little flambe. It's easy to overcook shrimp, right?
Very easy. As long as it's opaque though, it's done.
That doesn't need to be married to anything. It's just beautiful the way it is.
Exactly.
My kind of shrimp. All right.
Tomatoes,
Okay.
a little bit of Cajun seasoning.
Yeah.
Again, a little bit of spice, a little
What
bit
I'm
of color.
talking about. Love it.
white wine.
Yeah. So you deglazing that a little bit.
Deglazing that pan. Turn it off. Mama a little butter. That white wine, deglaze that pan, got all that fondness, all that flavor right there.
That is music to my ears,
Beautiful.
literally. This is great. So I get the creaminess from the grits, right?
Yeah.
It's like a cheesy taste. And you really need the shrimp in there, right? With the kick in it.
Well, grits are always made better with shrimp.
It's like the perfect union, right?
That's absolutely right.
This dish, it's kind of like an inclusive, unifying kind of dish. It's sort of like the first place you opened up in Philadelphia, right? Zanzibar Blue, which was sort of inclusive. It was like one of the first places here.
Right.
And I remember it.
Right. Zanzibar Blue was a really special time, and it was a very special concept. Like many of our places, or all of our places, actually had the marriage of food and music together.
How do you think it changed the social and cultural scene in Philadelphia?
You know, it's interesting that people always refer back to Zanzibar to say that it played their role, and it's very honoring to hear people say that. Jazz, with its improvisational nature, it really lent for a really nice place where you could come and see all types of people under one roof enjoying themselves.
You know, Philadelphia's dining scene is like suddenly exploding with all of these new places coming to
Right.
town, right? But you and your brother were here before everybody started noticing the culinary scene in Philadelphia, right?
Well, my brother Robert and I, we opened Zanzibar Blue back in 1990, and several other places after that that lead now to the four places which we run now. We've been fortunate to be able to say that amongst restaurateurs, there aren't many who have had as long a history as we have, doing what we do and doing what we enjoy. But Philadelphia has always been very rich in terms of restaurants. There's always been a major restaurant scene here, I would think. I mean, at least from the time that, you know, talking about the last 20 years or so.
So why do you think it's getting the attention so much nowadays?
Well, I'm thinking maybe because of the uniqueness of some of the restaurants. And a lot of restaurants that we should be very proud of. There are a lot of fine chefs here as well. And, you know, I think it's fantastic for the city.
Thanks to all the restaurants we visited this half hour, and a special thanks to Local Hotel here in Fishtown for accommodating me and the crew on our journey through this great dining destination. And remember, you'll always have a place at the table here on Restaurant Hunter. I'm Christine Sloan. Until next time, New Jersey.